Hello, this is Frank Falvey with Frank Presents, and today I have the privilege of having Dashe Videira, candidate for the State Senate of Massachusetts from Norfolk County. Welcome, Dashe.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Frank.
Dashe, what's the story behind you and why you're running?
There's a lot of factors. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a community member. I'm very thankful I've been in Franklin since 2010. But more about my personal story is I've had the privilege of having two wonderful parents that I think really emulated the American dream. And because of their ambitions and their goals and really wanting to provide a better future for their children, I'm the first of my family that had the opportunity to go to college, obtain a graduate degree. You know, they worked really hard. My dad is first generation Costa Rican and Puerto Rican, growing up in not really the greatest area in Staten Island, New York. My mom is some of the first Portuguese roots down in Provincetown, and, you know, life stories, single mom living, definitely got her out of that situation and to not the greatest area also in Staten Island, but two different lived experience for my parents. And, you know, my dad always says, he had the opportunity to go to vocational school and he was really thankful and blessed, but he had a wonderful mentor at the right time in his life that gave him an opportunity to think outside of the box and do something with his hands. And he became a locksmith, and, you know, with that skill set gave him a way out. And because of that mentor and because of that trade, it gave him an opportunity to have a future in, I think, an environment where there might not have been a future for him. So he met my mom, and next thing you know, they had me out of wedlock, and, you know, time to grow up. And, you know, my dad and my mom found a way. They lived with my mom's mom, and he would commute all the way from New York to Massachusetts for a job. And that was inspiring because, you know, he's sleeping on somebody's couch trying to figure out a way to just say, I'm going to get my family here, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And he was able to succeed. And, you know, next thing you know, he moves out my mom here. They buy a house in Foxborough in '88. I was born in '86. And opportunity came for them where they could open up a small business. They had 4 beautiful children, and, you know, they sent us to wonderful schools. And I really believe I got the opportunity to take advantage of the gifts that my parents could lay down the foundation for. So as time has gone on, and now I'm a mom and I have kids, and, you know, where are my priorities and how do I want to give them the best life possible? You know, I got the graduate degree. I worked in corporate America and operations in HR and background in psychology. And the more that I age, the more I realize kids really need a lot of support. So I left the corporate world to be with the kids, to help raise them and, you know, commit to being a mom. And, you know, living in Franklin, I'm very thankful for Steve Sherlock. He helped me bridge government understanding or town understanding and community involvement. But as time has gone on, I think some things have changed in Franklin that it's allowed me an opportunity to do something or say something. So as a mom that was once homeschooling and running for school committee in Franklin, and then next thing you know, running for governor's council, I sit here today being like, let's try state senate and see how we can bring that to the table.
Right. What college did you go to?
Say that again?
What college did you go to?
I went to Bridgewater State University.
Mm-hmm. And majored in?
Psychology.
And you went on at the same school for a master's?
No, I got a graduate degree from the University of the Rockies, which is in Colorado. I actually did an online program, which was really helpful. My first job out of college was in 2009 when we were basically really told, you're not going to find a job. The economy has gone down significantly and take whatever you can get. My dad thankfully knew somebody due to his connections and, you know, traveling around the state of Massachusetts, that I was able to find a job at, it's called Savis Data Center, working in operations and, you know, kind of laying down the foundation, and went to school online.
Great.
Yeah.
How did your political beliefs form in your mind or come about? And what are your particular, do you have a particular political theory?
A theory, I mean, I definitely think my parents did a really good job raising us with a faith foundation. So I think in many ways it gave me a moral compass. But as I got older in life, you know, you don't want to listen to your parents and you want to make your own decisions and you go through life choices and, you know, it kind of changes your perception on some things. And then you grow up and new layers happen.
Where are
yeah.
you now?
Where am I now? I guess as a mom, you know, I look at life realizing that I think life is very valuable. And today's world, I think of mental health and some of the crisis that we're in with kids and, you know, how can we make them feel safe, truly, genuinely feel safe? And I think I've gone more conservative in some of my views, you know, because I want to try to find ways to help and serve. But it's still flexible, like in the sense that I'm very, I think, truly an open-minded person, and my background in psychology and leadership development and getting out there and connecting with the community allows me to understand that really asking questions and listening to people, you can find significant common ground.
When elected, what committees would you like to be on?
That's a good question. I'm still in the process of kind of determining or factoring, you know, where do I fit in this? Because even just going back to understanding of listening and asking good questions, kind of getting into the State House and seeing, you know, what is happening will give me a really good sense to say, I think this is the direction that I need to really apply some time onto. But when it comes to health and education, those are probably the two biggest things that if there's some opportunities to be on some of those committees, I would be very thankful.
What particularly has motivated you to be a candidate for the state Senate?
Well, as some may know, some may not, I ran for school committee in 21, and around that time, the conversation was around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I definitely had a very diversified viewpoint when it came from education, and having a homeschool background and really getting to see the opportunity that I gave my kids and other kids within the area. There were approaches that I think could have been really good to help articulate and advocate for amongst the community. And in running on some of, I guess, my thought processes was challenging for the community that I think, you know, if anything, it was don't give up, do it again. Ran for governor's council. I think I shocked a lot of people realizing that we could get 1,000 write-ins at the primary in 37 towns and cities that, you know, people didn't know who I was. And as I've gotten more involved in the town and understanding stuff, I think there's a level of accountability that needs to be had. And the more that I've gotten involved, the more I've realized that other people have similar questions and concerns and, you know, need someone to help articulate that out. That what really captivated me was after the override situation and that turnout that happened in June, it helped me affirm that I still need to pay attention, really pay attention. And there was one town council meeting where both Representative Roy and State Senator Roush had the opportunity to come and speak. And, you know, that was where I was like, I think I can ask a good question. And some things had just went through legislation, and it just opened up the doorway for me to ask some questions. And based on how that kind of outplayed, determined, you know what, let's do it again. We'll run for State Senate. We have honestly about a week or two to help get the message out there, and it seemed to have worked. In 11 towns, we got over 1,000 write-ins.
As I recall, your question was on a recent change of births and how that is recorded. And your question centered around could people, they changed the language.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what the language changed to?
Yes, so my question to her directly, there was an opportunity for them to talk about what they've done at the State House, and she had mentioned the birth certificate specifics. And it opened up a door for me to ask the direct question about the terminology that was altered on the birth certificate. I will say the Parental Act as a whole is a phenomenal bill, and it passed unanimously in the House and the Senate. Now, that said, there was an amendment part that was added, and this part was initiated by Senator Becker Roush, and in fact did turn and change the terminology on the birth certificate to person with child and parent, when it once was mother and father. When I asked the question directly, she was very unwilling to answer the question and change the topic, saying that her children call her mother and nobody's removing mother. When I re-asked the question of if a parent was to choose to identify as a mother or father on the birth certificate, is that choice available? And she told me that I should take it up with the Department of Public Health.
Can you put forward your conservative views? In other words, let me ask a financial question.
Sure.
The state legislature seems to be afraid of cost of living,
Sure.
of putting cost of living into bills, so that the standard deduction for individuals hasn't changed in years. Many of the deduction for interest income from mass banks hasn't changed. Years ago, they changed the minimum wage law, but they never put in cost of living.
Yeah.
So the minimum wage, once it reached its maximum, which I think it has, is still way below a living wage.
Yes.
Would you work to bring up those deductions to the level that they were when they were first passed, the economic level that they were?
Great question. I think one of the things that the override had helped me better understand is we make some choices with no thought process of fixing maybe some of the ripple effects that come with that choice. And I think one of the situations that we're in right now, and to your question and your point, I think it makes sense to do more investigation to confirm, where are we missing in these numbers and how can we make it make sense? Because right now, I think a lot of families are financially struggling, and there are choices and decisions that we can make that help make people's lives easier, but are we actually following through with the whole process from beginning to end, so then that way that's actually feasible and attainable? That question, I think, needs an investigation.
You're familiar with Franklin in the override of $6.8 million that they wanted to pass, and it failed by, 232 votes?
236 votes,
36
yes.
votes. Because there are two competing sides.
Yeah.
Now, in the budget presentation subcommittee that was just held a while ago, someone from the school indicated that 10 to 15% of the budget went to educate children with intellectual disabilities. Would you favor the state taking that out of local control and putting it either in the state budget or putting it as a form of insurance? I could see an argument of having medical insurance cover educational costs for those students because of the disability that they have.
Yeah.
And would like to play with the idea of either the state picking that up as a state cost, or maybe picking it in as a benefit to be paid by insurance companies.
I think it would be great if the insurance companies could pick up that cost. I think the more that the state has that burden financially, nothing to do with one's disabilities, but from a financial perspective, it drains on the rest of the resources. And what I'm learning is those in the category of disabilities, there are families that are choosing to move to the state of Massachusetts because they do have services that are more compatible for what families are looking for. When families are coming into the state, and if we have families that are requesting certain things, it's creating a wait list and delaying the opportunity of people getting the services that they need in a timely manner. So if that is becoming an additional focus and people are consistently doing it, I have concerns that there could be more financial strain in this particular category and costing more financial hardships for other areas amongst the state budget and the town budget. So I think there's a lot of questions, again, that need to be asked to thoroughly answer in that black and white way. But I do think that this is a topic that, as Massachusetts becomes and continues to show leadership in certain ways, the more that people move here for certain services that then could be delayed, that could be quite costly, then I think from a conservative perspective puts a significant strain on a whole.
What are some of your economic plans that, if elected, you would like to see put forward?
That's a good question. What I'm learning right now in my phone canvassing is to really ask people what are the top issues for them, because to help economics and to help how people are financially struggling, I need to know what matters to them and what is really the obstacle that gets them in a financial pickle with the way things are or with the direction that we're going. In our district, there's 11 towns and cities, and with that district, it's really getting a better understanding of what does our district need and what are the issues of the voters to really understand how I could better articulate the right economic pitch and focus for the state. Because I do believe that right now, I think there's a disconnect between government and the people, and government is making choices that have significant financial impacts on the people, and the people are looking for a bridge, and they want to be heard. They want what their issues are to be acknowledged, and there seems to be a theme around finances, that the cost of living, yes, there's inflation, however, I think there's even more intimate details that are costing more financial burdens on the taxpayers, that I really believe that the more that we can ask the questions of their top issues, we'll be able to determine how we can be a better advocate economically for the state.
What are you finding as their top issues? What is your...
The three top issues actually that have come forward are children, education, and mental health. A lot of people are very concerned about the Second Amendment and the immigration that has come forward in the last few years in the state of Massachusetts.
Let's stop a minute.
Yeah.
The Second Amendment is around guns.
Yes.
And you mentioned immigration.
Yes.
Those are two separate.
Two separate, yeah.
Two separate
Yeah.
issues. So,
So
you're saying you're saying issues around guns.
Yes.
And what are the issues you're finding around guns?
I'm learning that the petition that's going around right now, many people are in favor of wanting to sign it in a true nonpartisan manner. And people, I think, are concerned that there's too much government overreach, that the timing of this new bill that had gone through gives somebody in the pit of their stomach just an uncomfortable feeling. So, I try to ask, again, further questions of what it is, but it seems that at the core, what it is government overreach.
AR-15s. Would you support Massachusetts allowing everyone to have AR-15s, or would you put limits on it?
So I personally am not the greatest gun advocate because I do not carry. I have my certificate, but when it comes down to all the details that come with guns, I believe that one of the best ways to even answer any question is to work with people that have issues with guns and people that believe in them to really identify. I've learned that there has been new ways of identifying certain types of guns. But again, if there's a certain class of guns that the way that they're labeled and what that classification identifies them as an AR gun, I don't know well enough the terminology to identify that I would personally need to, I think, do some more homework on that specific issue. What I hear with people is that the focus that they have and why it was an issue has more to do with government overreach and the timing of the way that things are going right now in the state of Massachusetts.
Immigration, as it relates to Massachusetts. What are you hearing people say?
I think there's a level of uncertainty, meaning no one knows how long they're really here for, how much that could also tax onto our community in the sense of our resources. Is it a growing population? Are we getting transparency from our elected officials on the status or improvements or upgrades of whatever's going on? There is a financial price tag that comes. I've learned that it's almost $70 a day for each individual to receive, where they also can get a free breakfast. And I know for a fact that we have community members that are really struggling to even put food on their table. So there's real concerns of, how is this happening, and where do I get my support? That it's a very emotional topic, while I think logical opportunity for people to ask questions that don't necessarily have direct answers.
What is, if you're the state senator, right? Would you vote to cut the money that's going to housing and have less housing for immigrants?
I think right now, again, going back to the economic aspects and the financial needs, people that pay taxes on a regular basis are really struggling. And if it does come down to realistic expectations of looking at a budget and seeing where can we cut and where can we support, the reality that our community members are really struggling, if that's one of the areas that we have to cut to be able to accommodate our community members that are doing the best they can to advocate that they need support, I think that would be very worthwhile.
The budget's before you. Where would you advocate to spend more money, or where else would you advocate to cut money from the budget before you?
So sometimes such a black and white answer, because I do think in the way that I've gotten more involved with government and local politics, I have learned that there are plenty of places that you can cut money and reallocate money. But is there a willingness to do it? I don't know. And what does the statistics need to show to help show the community on why it makes sense to spend money here or there? And right now, I don't think there's any black and white answer on we're going to cut this and move the money over here. I think a lot of the details matter. And, just for example, in regards to the school and the override, it was painted amongst the community of Franklin that if you voted no, then you automatically were against kids. And in no way do I believe that anyone will ever agree that they're against kids. I think the reality is that financially this had to come back to a personal decision of, can I really afford this? And the answer was no. So I know financially the schools are struggling. I know that the town of Franklin is struggling, but that doesn't mean that we automatically have to cut all these services to accommodate this, when in reality, cutting certain things could have dramatic impacts to the community as well. So everything needs some kind of analysis, opportunity to ask questions, to be able to better understand what logically and realistically can we cut without damaging, the community too much and having too much of a ripple effect. So I would look at it more from how can we maybe have a starting point and a goal that, by 6 to 9 months, something along those lines, that we can say, okay, we've thoroughly spent time here, we've spent time here, we've spent time, now we're going to make decisions on where we should be cutting and reallocating those funds.
In 2026, we're celebrating our 250th anniversary as a country.
Yeah.
You're in the Senate. How much money would you allocate of state funds to help fund that celebration?
Oh my, that question I think I need some more time to really think through. But I guess the question is, for me, what kind of message are we trying to send of how we market ourselves? And, what does that look like? And how does Massachusetts have, I guess, its flavor of it as well, too? I don't know. So that might impact what money comes in and, where the money's coming from. But there's always...
Would you help fund bringing tall ships, in other words, ships that are under sail, to the Boston Harbor?
Well, that
Would
sounds...
Would you fund in Western Massachusetts a state fireworks program on the 4th of July? What would you fund the reading of in every city and town of the Declaration of Independence?
Those are all, they all sound great. They really do. Because I think, to the point that you're trying to make right now, all I can say is I think if we can stay focused on what value the Constitution and the birth of America gave us all, then yes, I think it would be absolutely worthwhile to make it well known that these events are going to happen that help us go back to the roots of what the founding fathers were intending. So I guess to answer that question, yes. To keep the history alive, yes.
Well, to keep my tradition up, my favorite question is, there's no restrooms on state highways. 495, 290, 190. Yep. Someone with children and old men are together. There's no restrooms. The funding comes from the Bureau of Tourism, which doesn't make any sense to me.
Yep.
But with the 250th anniversary of the country and people coming to Massachusetts, what would you do about restrooms on state highways?
I think it would be mandatory if we were expecting a large group of people that were going to be coming. I had the opportunity to listen to the economic development meeting here in Franklin, and we had, I'm blanking out on what the names were specifically, but there were specific organizations that came that were focused on building better development around the 495 area. And it sounds like for one of the many reasons, to the point that you're trying to make, that people can go to the bathroom. But knowing that there is celebrations coming in the near 2 or so years, I think it makes sense to try to find ways to support the infrastructure of people coming. So if there's going to be people coming, then yes, there absolutely needs to be practical, realistic things like a bathroom, driving up 495 if they have to commute to 495 to get to a certain area. That makes sense.
Are there social programs that you would look at doing away with?
I think it's the same answer, that I need to spend some more time on the social programs and listening to what's out there, and again, going back to what people are in need of. And the best way to do that is to talk to the voters and talk to the community members as best as I can, because then I can offer, I believe we have a significant mental health problem. I believe that we definitely need social programs in place, but to say what could be cut and what could be implemented, I think we need more time, again, asking and bridging that gap between how government and community can work together.
Why do you believe we have a significant mental health problem? Is it a mental health problem or is it a drug problem?
I can't be a black and white answer, in my opinion. I really think, yes, we do have a drug problem. I do believe that a lot of people that choose drugs have something missing internally. It could be, a lack of love, a lack of support, a lack of understanding of self. I mean, there's so many things that it could be linking to that I think drugs are a way for them to deal with whatever they're dealing with. But at the core front, I do think that mental health, as we've gotten older in life, even myself, I'll be 38 in November, and my age group has definitely gone through its fair share of mental health challenges. And I think the more that we start talking about it, even people older than my age group are realizing, hey, you know what, I could have been undiagnosed ADHD my whole entire life and had no idea about it. So I think there's a lot of commonalities that can get rolled into the topic of mental health. But what I'm realizing is that the younger generations, they don't have necessarily the tools, the coping tools to deal with a lot of the mental health that they're faced. And there's a lot of societal pressures on top of it for parents, and some grandparents are raising their grandkids, and there's just so many factors that I think as a society we need support. We definitely need support.
Should we have a large number of mental health counselors or professionals in the school system, or should we have more responsibility on the parent side to address mental health issues with their children?
I honestly, I think it needs to be teamwork on both ends. I do believe that there are demographics where they need schools and they need the support that can be provided to them in the school. That said, there's also, I know, a good chunk of parents, more than ever, I think since COVID has happened, that have come forward that want to support their kids and they want to advocate for their kids and they want those platforms to be able to safely do so. So right now, I think raising a family and, you know, giving the kids all the stuff that they need, a lot of parents are overworked and stressed out, but there is a level of willingness that I think amongst the community that we do need to work together. So to say, oh, we need to, you know, put all of our ducks in a row and get all these mental health coordinators and facilitators in the schools, and that's the only way, you know, I don't think that's true. And if you were saying, oh, we need all these parents to step up and they need to do better because the kids are counting on us, you know, they honestly might not even be able to do that. So we need to find that happy medium and work through that bridge and say we might need some of both.
Dashe Videira, candidate for the state senate, first Tuesday in November.
Yes.
People will be going to the Franklin gymnasium to vote.
Yes.
Between 6 and 8 o'clock, 6 in the morning to 8 at night. And you will be on the ballot.
Yes, I'll be on the ballot.
So how can people reach you if they'd like to learn more about you?
Wonderful. So there's plenty of options. You can go to the website. It's www.votefor-dashe.com. You can also, on the website, I have my email address. Feel free to send me an email. I have my personal phone number as well, too. I find right now in today's world, I really am looking to connect with the voters. So if you feel compelled to give me a phone call, you are free to give me a phone call on my personal phone number. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on X. So really there's plenty of ways that someone can reach out if they have a direct question.
Just as an observation that I would make, you seem to be more on a conservative side than the present state senator seems to be much more on a liberal side. Would you agree with that assessment?
I would. One of the reasons why, so the choice of me saying yes to running is really to help create a bridge, and we're building it under 3 key principles of unity, accountability, and opportunity. And the best way, I think, to really attain that is to really hear and listen to the voters and work to build some level of balance at the State House. So I think when I look at the whole picture, right now, you know, there's 40 state senators, and I think 3 of them might be Republican. So as a community, I think we can all agree that right now we're in a lack of balance, and I would love to be a doorway or an opportunity to help create that unity, accountability, and opportunity amongst the state of Massachusetts by creating some balance at the State House.
Dashe Videira, thank you for doing this interview again. This is Frank Falvey and Dashe Videira wishing you happy days, but vote early or vote by mail or come to the polls and vote. But whatever you do, please look at the candidates and please make a decision and vote the way you would like your conscience or your elected officials to represent you. Thank you. Thank you, Dashe.
Thank you.
This program was made possible by your Franklin friends and neighbors, good folks just like you. Thanks for supporting Franklin TV. And thanks for watching.